The Crowd CFO, fun username, fun handle. His hypothetical is, does Clemson make it as a 2-loss at-large bid? In theory, this would be a loss to Miami in the ACC championship game, and then obviously the second loss would be the first game of the year they already played against Georgia. So I think this is really interesting when we start talking about the at-large bids, because I was talking to Caden Smith about this yesterday in the office, and we talk about the at-large bids in a certain way, but really, like, there's not actually 7 at-large bids. I think there's actually only 5, because you have obviously the 5 conference champs. Is the Big Ten runner-up or the SEC runner-up getting left out? No. So those 2 are spoken for. So then there's 5 at-large bids. So if I'm Clemson, in this discussion, I want as few 11-1 teams as possible. I'm rooting for chaos. I'm rooting for Penn State to beat Ohio State, to give them 2 losses. I'm rooting for A&M to find a way to drop a game somewhere along the way so they're 10-2. I'm rooting for the Big 12 to not have an undefeated title game. Like, you're rooting for chaos. You're rooting for Tennessee and Georgia to all lose again. Like, all that is 100% true. College football sickos, make sure you are subscribed. We have had a ton of y'all join the channel throughout the course of the season. We're glad to have y'all here. If you have not yet subscribed, we're glad to have you a part of this. We appreciate you in advance for being dialed in. The good news is, if you're Clemson, with that resume we just unpacked, if your only regular season loss is to the number 1 team in America when you play them at a neutral site, and again, week 1, I think that bodes well in your favor. I think that your resume in itself would be relatively strong. Now, the benefit, I suppose, for Clemson the rest of the way is the Pitt game could be a top 15 matchup. It could be a nice feather in the cap. The unfortunate reality is the Florida State game that you were hoping would be a big-time win and kind of a flag plant win for your season in the preseason ended up kind of being a dud. I think if I'm Clemson here, I would take a page out of last year's playbook or note out of last year's playbook from what Florida State didn't do. And it's tough for Florida State because you lost your starting quarterback. Like, that is, I mean, you're down to your 3rd string guy the last game of the season. Like, I don't know what to tell you there. That's very, very tough. But I think if we look back at Florida State a season ago, if they had, with their 3rd string quarterback now, won games by 20 points, won games by 30 points, they probably would have made the college football playoff. Why? Because the people watching those games now, optically, feel some sense of confidence that they will handle business when they get to the dance. We're going from 4 teams to 12 teams, but I think that same method could be true. If you're Clemson, you hope you never have to play without your starting quarterback. That's obvious. But I think if you're able to have some style points, that's going to obviously benefit your at-large aspirations. Now, one more thing I want to talk about with this hypothetical. With Miami potentially being the team you see in the ACC title game, let's just go off the script here and say, without this hypothetical, off the hypothetical script, I suppose, let's say that Clemson beats Miami in the ACC title game. Let's say that happens. Obviously, you punch a ticket to the college football playoff. You got to buy in the first round. But just optically, the narrative around Clemson, I think, would start to take a 180. Because remember now, Miami, they pretty much built that team through the portal. Mario Cristobal, dogging the recruiting trail. But they're probably not in the ACC title game without Cam Ward. Potentially without a Damian Martinez. Without a Simeon Barrow. Like, all those pieces now have played a pretty integral role into Miami being what they are this year. So if Clemson and Dabo's anti-portal policy end up beating a team put together by the portal for the ACC title, again, I don't think that you totally turn the volume down on the transfer portal discussion. That will always be a topic until Clemson wins the national championship again. But if you can show that you run the conference against a team that has relied heavily on the portal, that would do a lot, I think, for the overall approval rating on how Dabo does things. So great question there from the Crowd CFO. Clemson, if they handle business and just get to Charlotte with 1 regular season loss, I think you should feel good about your chances to make the college football playoff, even if you don't win the ACC. So Clemson plays Louisville this week. The square that I love in this game, Cade Klubnik, his passing yard total is 283.5 pass yards. He's gone over 300 each of the last 2 games. Louisville, not great against the pass. All right, we'll just leave it at that. Not tremendous when it comes to defending the passing game. So I think Cade Klubnik surpasses that total. When you use code HARDCOUNT now, most important part, at prizepicks.com, again, code HARDCOUNT, when you play $5 in lineups, get $50 in promo funds. So use that code, get yourself $50 to play with the rest of your college football Saturday, and we'll make sure we lock that one in.